In the darkness of the Burmese jungle, a Japanese sentry stands watch. Everything is still. Only the trees breathe. And then, he drops. No scream, no gunshot. This is how the silent American carbine that terrified Japanese guards at night actually worked. A weapon that should not have existed. In 1944, U.S. Marines and OSS teams pick up a strange-looking carbine. It looks like a chopped-down British Lee Enfield. Heavy, long, awkward, but when it fires, even someone standing 10 steps away hears only a soft click, like a closet door quietly closing. This isn't a trick. This isn't Hollywood. This carbine could kill at 200 yards, while sounding like nothing at all. Japanese patrols spoke about night ghosts, because men kept falling without any sound. American Marines called it the scariest quiet thing they'd ever seen. But here's the hidden truth. This weapon was born from an illegal hunting tool, homemade experiments, and an engineer who wasn't even a soldier. And by the time the military realized what he had created, it was already too late. The carbine was out in the field, completing missions everyone else thought were suicide. So what was it really? A masterpiece of silent warfare, or a dangerous illusion that could collapse an entire operation? And the biggest question, how did one homemade idea make Japanese guards fear the night itself? In the darkness of the Burmese jungle, a Japanese sentry stands watch. Everything is still. Only the trees breathe, and then he drops. No scream, no gunshot. This is how the silent American carbine that terrified Japanese guards at night actually worked. A weapon that should never have existed. In 1944, U.S. Marines and OSS teams pick up a strange-looking carbine. It resembles a cut-down British Lee Enfield. Heavy, long, awkward. But when it fires, even someone standing 10 steps away hears only a soft click, like a closet door quietly closing. This is not a trick, not a Hollywood effect. This carbine can kill at 200 yards while sounding like nothing at all. Japanese patrols speak of night ghosts because men fall without a sound. American Marines call it the scariest quiet thing they have ever seen. Here is the hidden truth. This weapon begins with an illegal hunting tool, homemade experiments, and an engineer who is not even a soldier. By the time the military understands what he created, it is already too late. The carbine is in the field, completing missions everyone else believes are suicide. So, what is it really? A masterpiece of silent warfare, or a dangerous illusion that might collapse an entire operation? And the biggest question, how did one homemade idea make Japanese guards fear the night itself? If you find this dive into wartime engineering interesting, subscribing helps the channel bring you more forgotten stories like this one. September 1944. A jungle road, 20 miles south of Myitkyina, Burma. A Japanese supply truck rolls down a narrow dirt path. 3 soldiers inside, headlights off. They have learned not to advertise their presence. 50 yards ahead, hidden in the tree line, 2 American OSS operatives and 1 British commando wait in complete silence. The lead American raises the carbine. Strange weapon. British receiver, American ammunition, and a suppressor nearly as long as the barrel. He lines up the shot through iron sights. The truck slows for a curve, a soft click, a quiet puff of air. The driver slumps forward. The truck rolls into a ditch. The other 2 Japanese soldiers jump out, rifles raised, shouting into the dark. They scan the jungle. They listen. Nothing. No muzzle flash. No sonic crack. No smell of gunpowder drifting through humid air. 1 soldier steps toward the cab to check the driver. The second American operative raises his carbine. Another click. The soldier drops. The third Japanese soldier freezes. His head swings left and right, trying to understand what is happening. His partner has just fallen, but without sound, without any clue of direction. He fires twice into the tree line, blindly and desperately. His muzzle flash lights the jungle. The sound echoes for miles. Now, every Japanese patrol within 2 miles knows exactly where he is. The British commando fires once. The third soldier collapses. 3 men dead. The Americans use 2 rounds. The entire engagement lasts 40 seconds. Not one observer could identify gunfire from the carbine. Scenes like this repeat across Burma, Malaya, and the Pacific Islands throughout late 1944 and early 1945. Japanese supply convoys begin traveling only in daylight. Night patrols refuse certain jungle roads. Officers file strange reports. Sentries found dead at their posts, no signs of struggle, no shell casings, no disturbance of the ground. The psychological effect is immediate and devastating. Soldiers start calling the unseen shooters yūrei, no jūhei, ghost gunners, because the Lisle Commando Carbine does not sound like a weapon. It sounds like silence with consequences. Japanese troops never discover what is killing their men. American intelligence makes sure of that. Captured Delisles must be destroyed immediately to prevent technical analysis. OSS teams carry explicit orders. If capture is likely, disable the weapon first. Because this carbine represents something new in warfare, not firepower, not rate of fire, invisibility. The ability to kill without revealing your position, without alerting nearby forces, without giving the enemy anything except the sudden stillness of a man who has stopped breathing. And the strangest part, this weapon is never supposed to exist in American hands. It is designed by a British civilian, built in small numbers for British commandos, classified as secret, restricted to select units. But once American special operations see what it can do, they demand it. And when the U.S. Marines test it in the Pacific, they refuse to give it back. The question facing Allied special operations is brutally simple. How do you kill sentries without waking the garrison? The answer comes from an unexpected place. A South African engineer who spends his teenage years building illegal homemade suppressors to poach rabbits. His name is William Godfrey Delisle, and in 1943, he turns coca tin experiments into the quietest rifle the war will ever see. William Godfrey Delisle never intends to change warfare. He simply wants to shoot rabbits without getting arrested. 1920s, a small farm outside Johannesburg, South Africa. Teenage Delisle faces a simple problem. His family needs meat. The fields are full of rabbits, but a legal permit to shoot them costs more than the family can pay. So he builds his first suppressor out of a cocoa tin, steel wool, and wire mesh. The result is crude. The makeshift baffles survive maybe 20 shots before melting, but the sound is soft enough that neighbors never complain. From this small experiment, Delisle learns something essential. Silence is not about removing sound. It is about removing recognition. A gunshot has a sharp signature, a crack you cannot mistake, but a dull thump, that could be anything. A door closing, a book dropping, a branch snapping underfoot. The human mind ignores sounds it cannot categorize. By the 1930s, Delisle has moved to London. He works as an automotive engineer, steady income, predictable routines. But he never stops refining suppressor designs. He builds one for a .22 pistol, then a larger one for a .32 caliber. Each version grows quieter, more controlled. He is not trying to arm anyone. He is solving a puzzle. How quiet can a firearm become before it no longer feels like a firearm at all? 1942, London. Britain is losing missions in silence. Commando raids across occupied Europe keep failing for one unforgiving reason: noise. Killing a sentry quietly with standard weapons is nearly impossible. Even suppressed Sten guns betray themselves. The bolt slams, springs snap, baffles ring. A single metallic clatter warns the enemy. And once the enemy hears anything unusual, the mission collapses. British Combined Operations tests every suppressed weapon available. The Welrod pistol is silent, but only at contact range. The operator must press the muzzle against the target. The suppressed Sten is quieter than the standard version, yet still produces roughly 118 decibels, about the volume of a lawnmower, easily heard at 50 yards. American OSS .22 pistols are whisper quiet, but their bullets lack stopping power. Sentries do not always drop immediately. British commandos need something that does not exist: a rifle-class weapon, lethal at 200 yards, yet so quiet that observers cannot identify gunfire. It sounds impossible. Early 1943, a small workshop in London. Major Malcolm Campbell, liaison officer for Combined Operations, hears rumors about an illegal poaching pistol used by gamekeepers. Homemade, unauthorized, but reportedly quiet enough to shoot inside city limits without alerting police. He tracks down its creator, William Godfrey Lisle. Campbell explains the military's problem. Lisle listens silently, nodding as if the solution is obvious. Then he says, the sentence that changes everything. You are using the wrong ammunition. The military has been trying to suppress high-velocity rifle rounds. Bullets traveling faster than sound always create the sonic crack no suppressor can eliminate. Lisle proposes something entirely different, the .45 ACP pistol cartridge. Heavy bullet, subsonic speed, proven reliable in the American Thompson submachine gun. Campbell doubts it. A pistol round inside a rifle-length platform sounds ridiculous, but Lisle explains, the barrel stabilizes the bullet, the suppressor removes muzzle blast. And because the round never breaks the sound barrier, there is no sonic crack, no flash, no mechanical noise if fired from a bolt-action system. Just a soft click and a heavy bullet traveling roughly 830 feet per second. Campbell gives him 3 weeks in a military workshop. Lisle returns in March 1943. Vickers Armstrong Testing Grounds, Newcastle upon Tyne. Military observers stand 50 yards from a sandbag wall. Lisle shoulders the prototype, a modified Lee Enfield receiver, a shortened barrel with gas bleed ports, and an integrated suppressor stretching about 13 inches past the muzzle. He fires. The observers look at each other. One asks, when are you going to shoot it? Lisle has already fired. The bullet is buried in the sandbag. He fires again. This time they hear it. A soft thump, like a book falling onto a table. Not one observer recognizes the sound as gunfire. The meter reads roughly 85.5 decibels, quieter than normal conversation. For comparison, a suppressed Sten produces about 118 decibels. A standard rifle, about 160. The Lisle Commando Carbine has just made conventional suppressed weapons irrelevant. Campbell classifies the design immediately. Within 6 weeks, Combined Operations orders the first production batch. And within 6 months, the carbine is eliminating sentries across occupied France, with their partners standing 10 feet away, hearing nothing. The impossible weapon now exists, and it is about to spread fear across an entire theater of war. The Lisle enters production in the summer of 1943, but the problem it solves has been killing Allied soldiers for nearly 2 years. June 1942, a coastal raid in Normandy, France. A 12-man British commando team moves inland from the beach. Their task, destroy a German radar station roughly 3 miles from the coast. 2 sentries patrol the perimeter fence. The commandos carry suppressed Sten guns, the standard tool for silent night raids. The lead commando lines up his shot. 20 yards, center mass. He fires. The suppressor softens the muzzle blast, but the Sten's bolt still slams backward with a harsh metallic crack. The wounded sentry stumbles, shouts, and then collapses. The second guard snaps toward the noise, rifle up. Gunfire erupts across the compound. Floodlights blaze. The alarm bell screams. The commandos never reach the radar station. 4 men die during the retreat. 3 are captured. The mission collapses because of 2 seconds of noise. This kind of failure repeats across Europe and North Africa through 1942 and early 1943. Silent insertion means nothing if the first shot wakes the entire garrison. The British Special Operations Executive studies every broken mission. The pattern is always the same. Suppressed weapons reduce sound. They do not eliminate recognition. A suppressed Sten in the dark still sounds like a gun. Its mechanical action creates sharp secondary noise. Its supersonic bullet produces a crack that reveals direction. Even inexperienced sentries need only 2 seconds to react, 2 seconds to shout, 2 seconds to launch a flare, 2 seconds to destroy the operation. Late 1942. Special Operations Training Facility, Scotland. Instructors test every suppressed weapon in a simple scenario. Eliminate a sentry at 25 yards. His partner stands 10 yards away, facing the opposite direction. Does the partner understand what happened? The well-rod pistol passes, but only at contact range. The operator must walk right up behind the sentry and press the muzzle into his spine, perfect for assassination, useless for open ground perimeter guards. The suppressed stand fails every time. The bolt noise exposes the shooter instantly. American OSS .22 high-standard pistols are quieter, but the lightweight round lacks stopping power. Some sentries remain standing for 3 or even 4 seconds, long enough to yell or fire. One instructor writes the inevitable conclusion: we can kill quietly at close range, or effectively at distance. We cannot do both. Combined Operations sends the report to British weapons designers. Most respond with the same message: the task is physically impossible. Rifle-level lethality requires high velocity. High velocity creates noise. Suppressors can muffle muzzle blast, but they cannot remove the sonic crack of a bullet, breaking the sound barrier. Physics does not negotiate. Early 1943. Commando training base at Achnacarry, Scotland. 20 commandos prepare for a raid on a German-held port in Norway. Intelligence reports 12 sentries patrolling the harbor perimeter. Kill. At them silently, and the team can mine 3 supply ships. But with existing weapons, eliminating 12 guards without alerting the garrison is impossible. The raid commander requests postponement. His explanation is blunt: we can reach the target, we can place the charges, but we cannot guarantee silent removal of the sentries. If one man fires a shot, the garrison responds in under 60 seconds. We will be trapped against the water with no escape. The raid is postponed indefinitely. 3 weeks later, similar missions in France and Yugoslavia are canceled for the same reason. By the spring of 1943, Combined Operations maintains a list of 27 high-value targets that cannot be attacked because silent sentry removal remains unreliable. The strategic cost grows heavier each month. Then William Godfrey de Lisle fires his prototype at the Vickers-Armstrong testing grounds. Observers standing 50 yards away think they heard a door closing. Not one of them identifies gunfire. Major Malcolm Campbell watches the sandbag swallow 5 rounds in 20 seconds. He understands immediately what this means. Those 27 forbidden targets have just become possible. Within days, Campbell briefs Combined Operations leadership. Within weeks, the first Lisle carbines enter production. And within months, commandos are carrying them into occupied Europe, finally holding a weapon that can kill a sentry without waking his partner. The problem no one could solve has just been cracked by a civilian engineer who learned his craft poaching rabbits in South Africa. Now, only one question remains: can it survive real combat? The answer will unfold in darkness, silence, and blood. William Godfrey de Lisle is not a soldier. He is not a trained weapons designer. He is a problem solver who happens to understand sound better than most engineers of his era. 1908. A small farm outside Johannesburg, South Africa. De Lisle grows up in a place where noise carries consequences. His father runs a modest farm. Neighbors live close by. Game wardens patrol frequently. Hunting without permits is illegal, yet the family needs meat to survive. Young de Lisle watches his father set snares and traps. They are slow and unreliable. Some rabbits escape, others suffer for hours. There must be a cleaner, faster way. At 15, de Lisle builds his first suppressor from whatever he can find on the farm: a cocoa tin, steel wool, wire mesh, and leather washers cut from old boots. He attaches it to a small caliber rifle and fires into a dirt bank behind the barn. The suppressor survives 6 shots before the homemade baffles melt from heat. But in those 6 shots, his father, working 50 yards away, never looks up. From that moment, de Lisle learns the principle that will define his entire life's work. You do not need to eliminate sound. You only need to eliminate recognition. Over the next 5 years, he builds 17 experimental suppressors. Each one is a little quieter, a little more refined. He adjusts baffle spacing, tests new materials, and studies how gas can be slowed, redirected, and cooled. By his early 20s, de Lisle can reduce the sound of a rifle shot to something resembling a sharp hand clap, but he is still breaking the law. In 1928, facing potential charges for illegal hunting, de Lisle emigrates to England. He finds work in London as an automotive engineer. Steady income, predictable days, but his obsession with suppressors never leaves him. 1935. A small workshop in East London. De Lisle repairs engines during the day. At night, he returns to his private experiments. He builds suppressors for friends, gamekeepers, estate managers, farmers who need to control rabbit populations quietly. The work is technically illegal, but it draws no attention. He does not advertise. He sells nothing in shops. Word spreads quietly. There's a man in London who can make your rifle whisper. His metalworking skills improve. His acoustic understanding deepens. He begins experimenting with subsonic ammunition, rounds that never break the sound barrier. By 1940, Lisle has designed suppressors for nearly 40 firearms. Each is quieter than anything available commercially. 1942, London under the Blitz. German bombs fall nightly, but Lisle continues to work. One evening, he finishes a suppressed .32 pistol for an estate manager from Kent. The weapon is extraordinary. Fired indoors, it produces less noise than closing a heavy wooden door. The estate manager mentions it to a friend. That friend tells another friend. And that friend happens to be a Home Guard officer with connections to military intelligence. 3 weeks later, Major Malcolm Campbell steps into Lisle's workshop. He does not introduce himself as military. He asks about the suppressed pistol, as if he were an ordinary client. Lisle demonstrates the weapon, firing into a box of sand in the corner. Campbell scarcely hears the shot. Then comes the question that changes everything. Could you build something larger, rifle caliber? Lisle shakes his head. Not with standard ammunition. Rifle bullets travel faster than sound. No suppressor can stop the sonic crack. Campbell leans in. What if we use slower ammunition? Lisle pauses. You mean subsonic rounds? Yes. Then yes, it would be quiet. Very quiet. Only then does Campbell reveal his identity. He describes the desperate military problem and offers Lisle access to a government workshop with full resources. Lisle listens silently. When Campbell finishes, the engineer asks one question. How quiet does it need to be? Quiet enough that a man standing 20 yards away does not recognize gunfire. Lisle nods. That is possible. I will need 3 weeks. Campbell gives him 2. February 1943. Government workshop, North London. Lisle works 16-hour days, driven by a mix of precision, stubbornness, and an instinctive understanding of acoustics. He starts with a Lee Enfield action, rugged, reliable, and bolt-operated, which means no loud mechanical cycling. He shortens the barrel to 8¼ inches and drills gas bleed ports near the chamber to vent pressure before the bullet reaches the muzzle. Then he builds a 13-inch suppressor, machining internal baffles to exact tolerances. The suppressor forces gases through a maze of expansion chambers, slowing them to near ambient pressure. He chambers the weapon for .45 ACP, heavy, subsonic American pistol ammunition with proven stopping power. A pistol cartridge in a rifle-length platform sounds absurd, but Lisle understands something most weapons designers overlook. Lethality is not only velocity, it is energy transfer. A heavy bullet moving below the speed of sound can still deliver devastating impact. And because it never breaks the sound barrier, there is no sonic crack. 14 days after Campbell's visit, Lisle finishes the prototype. He fires it inside the workshop. The shot is barely louder than the hum of machinery. Then comes the official test. Vickers Armstrong Testing Grounds. 50 military observers stand 50 yards from a sandbag wall. Lisle fires once. No one reacts. He fires again. A faint thump, like a book dropping on a wooden table. Not one observer identifies gunfire. The civilian engineer who once built suppressors from cocoa tins has just created the quietest rifle of the entire war. And he is about to change how special operations fight in the dark. March 1943. The prototype finally exists. Now it must prove itself under conditions that actually matter. Vickers Armstrong Testing Grounds, Newcastle upon Tyne. Major Malcolm Campbell gathers roughly 20 military observers for the official demonstration. Infantry officers, weapons specialists, and representatives from Combined Operations and the Special Operations Executive. Most arrive skeptical. They have seen quiet weapons before. The promises are always bold. The results rarely match. Lisle stands near the firing line, holding the carbine. He looks uneasy in front of a crowd. He is an engineer, not a performer. Campbell explains the rules. Mr. Lisle will fire 5 rounds at the target 50 yards downrange. Your task is simple. Identify when he fires and describe what you hear. The observers spread out, some closer to the firing line, others at angles to catch different acoustic reflections. Lisle raises the carbine, aims, fires, nothing. Several observers glance at each other. One checks his watch, assuming the demonstration has not begun. Lisle works the bolt and fires again. This time, a few observers hear something faint, a soft mechanical click, a distant thump. One officer says it sounds like a book dropped on a wooden table. Another describes it as a door closing 2 rooms away. Not one identifies gunfire. He fires the remaining 3 rounds. All 5 shots produce the same muted, ambiguous sound. When Lisle lowers the weapon, Campbell instructs the group to write down what they heard and when. The reports contradict each other. Some heard 5 noises. Others heard only 3. 2 heard nothing at all. Downrange, officers inspect the target. 5 holes, tight grouping, center mass. One infantry major quietly mutters to Campbell, "If I had not seen the target, I would swear he never fired." Campbell orders more tests. Test 2, urban simulation. Lisle fires the carbine from a rooftop near the Thames. Pedestrians walk 60 yards below. 5 shots. Not one person reacts. A constable continues his patrol. A woman pushing a pram does not glance up. Dock workers keep talking. The sound is too soft and too unfamiliar to trigger recognition. It simply blends into the city's background noise. Test 3, direct comparison. 3 weapons are placed at the firing line. A standard Lee Enfield rifle, a suppressed Sten gun, the Lisle Commando Carbine. Each fires at the same target while observers record sound levels. Lee Enfield, roughly 160 decibels, a violent rifle crack. Observers flinch. Suppressed Sten, roughly 118 decibels, noticeably quieter but unmistakably gunfire, plus mechanical bolt noise. Lisle, roughly 85.5 decibels, below normal conversation. Observers struggle to hear anything at all. The data confirms what their ears already know. The Lisle does not belong in the same category as other silent weapons. March 28, 1943. Combined Operations Headquarters, London. Campbell presents the results to senior command. The implications are immediate and enormous. Every postponed raid, every canceled mission, every target considered impossible because a sentry might shout, all potentially viable now. But doubts surface quickly. A logistics officer raises the first concern. This fires pistol ammunition. What is the effective range? Campbell answers without hesitation. 200 yards with acceptable accuracy. The .45 ACP round is subsonic but heavy. It holds energy well. Another frowns. Magazine capacity? 7 rounds, single stack, M1911 type magazine. A 7-round weapon sounds dangerously limited, and Campbell knows it. It is not meant as a primary weapon, he explains. It is a tool for one job, sentry elimination. 1 or 2 shots determine whether a mission succeeds or dies. Another officer asks about production. Campbell gives the honest estimate, 30 to 40 units per month. Every suppressor must be hand-fitted. Precision machining is essential. The room falls silent. 30 units a month means the weapon will never be common. It will be reserved for the few missions where silence is more valuable than firepower, which leads to the obvious question, who receives them? April 1943. Combined Operations authorizes immediate production. The first batch, later known as Mark I, goes to British commandos preparing for coastal raids in Norway and France. The second batch goes to Special Operations executive teams supporting resistance groups across occupied Europe. Then something unexpected happens. American liaison officers attend a training demonstration. They watch British commandos drop practice sentries at 50 yards, silently, while their partners, standing a few steps away, remain unaware. They see the possibilities, and they want the weapon. The U.S. Office of Strategic Services submits a request for 20 carbines. The United States Marine Corps requests 30 more for Pacific operations. Lisle's quiet experiment is no longer just a British secret. It has become an international asset. And now it is heading to the most unforgiving proving ground on Earth. Real combat. Real sentries. Real consequences. The jungle roads of Burma are waiting. April 1943. Production begins. William Godfrey de Lisle watches the first batch of carbines leave the workshop. 30 units, serial numbers stamped into the receivers. Each one hand-fitted, test-fired, approved. He knows exactly where they are headed, into occupied Europe, into enemy territory, into the hands of men who will kill with total silence. This is no longer an acoustic puzzle. This is a weapon built for a single purpose, silent execution. De Lisle never intended to become a tool weapons designer. He wanted to solve a technical challenge. How quiet can a gun be? But even elegant solutions carry consequences. Major Malcolm Campbell visits the workshop one last time before deployment. He thanks de Lisle, says the carbine will save British lives. De Lisle nods, asking no questions. He already understands what his creation will do. Campbell hesitates at the door. Does it bother you, knowing what this weapon will be used for? De Lisle answers after a long pause. I built it to work. Whether that bothers me is no longer relevant. Campbell leaves without replying. May 1943. Commando Training Facility, Achnacarry, Scotland. The first de Lisle carbines arrive packed in wooden crates labeled fragile. Optical instruments. 20 commandos receive specialized instruction. The weapon surprises them immediately. It weighs 7 pounds, 8 ounces. The integrated suppressor pulls the balance point forward. But when they fire it, everything changes. One sergeant describes his first shot. I pulled the trigger expecting the usual kick. Got nothing. Just a click, and the target dropped. I had to check the weapon to make sure it actually fired. Training focuses on exact scenarios, nighttime sentry elimination at different distances, hitting multiple targets in sequence without alerting nearby patrols firing from concealment, while enemy soldiers pass within 20 yards. The carbine performs flawlessly. But instructors stress its limits: 7-round magazine, manual bolt operation, slow follow-up shots. This is not a firefight weapon. This is the weapon for the second before the firefight begins. The razor-thin moment when silence decides whether a mission succeeds or ends in disaster. June 1943. Final briefing before deployment. The commandos receive their targets. Coastal radar installations in Norway, German supply depots in France, railway junctions in Yugoslavia. Every operation depends on silent approach, silent elimination of guards, silent withdrawal. One officer explains the doctrine with brutal clarity. The de Lisle gives you one thing: surprise. Use it on the sentries. Once the garrison wakes up, switch to your primary weapon. This carbine cannot win a gunfight. It can only prevent one. The commandos understand immediately. This weapon lives in the gap between detection and reaction, a 3-second window where a man collapses and his partner does not yet grasp what happened. 3 seconds of confusion, 3 seconds before anyone recognizes the sound or the absence of sound. 3 seconds to fire again. Late June 1943. The first commandos deploy into occupied Europe carrying de Lisle carbines. They will not speak openly about these missions for decades, but the after-action reports reveal everything. Norway, July 3, 1943. 4 sentries eliminated at a German radar station. The garrison remains unaware for 17 minutes. The demolition team completes its work and withdraws without contact. France, July 18, 1943. 3 guards killed at an ammunition depot. A nearby patrol passes within 30 yards and keeps walking. Charges placed successfully. Yugoslavia, August 2, 1943. A guard at a railway junction drops silently. His replacement arrives 6 minutes later, assumes a heart attack. Partisans derail a supply train 2 hours afterward. The pattern repeats across every theater. Sentries die quietly. Missions succeed. Garrisons never understand what happened. Slowly, the psychological pressure becomes impossible to ignore. German soldiers start refusing night sentry duty at isolated posts. Officers report collapsing morale among perimeter guards. Because men are dying with no warning, no muzzle flash, no gunshot, no clue, only bodies. The de Lisle carbine has crossed a threshold. from engineering marvel to psychological weapon. And now the Americans will take it into the Pacific, where jungle darkness will make its silence even more terrifying. Before the carbine could terrify the Pacific, American armorers first had to understand it, because on paper, the Lisle should not work according to any conventional weapons theory. August 1943, OSS Weapons Testing Facility, Maryland. U.S. technical specialists disassemble the first Lisle received from Britain. What they uncover contradicts almost everything they know about firearm design. A rifle receiver firing pistol ammunition, a barrel shorter than many handguns, paired with a suppressor longer than most rifles. An integrated silencer that cannot be removed without crippling the weapon entirely. One armorer summarizes it bluntly in his report. This weapon breaks every principle of modular military firearm design. It should not be effective, but testing proves otherwise. The genius of Lisle's design lies in how each component solves an impossible problem. Problem 1. Sonic crack. Most rifle bullets travel faster than sound, creating a tiny sonic boom as they fly. No suppressor can silence this crack. Physics simply will not allow it. Lisle's solution: use subsonic ammunition. The .45 ACP travels around 830 feet per second. Sound travels over 1,000 to 125 feet per second. The bullet never breaks the sound barrier. No crack, no whip. Just a dull, heavy impact. Problem 2. Muzzle blast. When a bullet exits the barrel, high-pressure gases erupt outward, producing the familiar bang. Standard suppressors reduce this blast, but hot gases still escape violently. Lisle's solution: bleed the gas before it reaches the muzzle. The shortened barrel has ventilation ports near the chamber. These ports release most of the propellant gas into the suppressor's expansion chamber, while the bullet is still traveling. By the time the bullet emerges, the remaining gas pressure is minimal. The suppressor handles only a soft, slow exhale instead of an explosion. Problem 3. Mechanical noise. Semi-automatic and automatic weapons create loud mechanical signatures. Bolts slamming, springs snapping, metal cycling. Lisle's solution: manual bolt action. The Lee Enfield bolt is smooth, reliable, and silent when operated with care. There are no reciprocating parts, no clattering cycles, no metallic violence. The shooter controls every sound the weapon makes. Problem 4. Bullet energy. Pistol ammunition usually lacks the power for rifle range lethality, but the .45 ACP is different. A .45 ACP bullet weighs 230 grains, nearly twice the mass of a typical .22 rifle bullet. Heavy bullets retain energy far better than light ones. Even at subsonic speeds, the .45 ACP remains lethal at 200 yards. When it hits soft tissue, the heavy projectile creates devastating wound cavities. Targets drop immediately. The American armorers reassemble the carbine and test it against human analog targets at multiple distances. 50 yards, immediate incapacitation. 100 yards, immediate incapacitation. 150 yards, immediate incapacitation. 200 yards, still lethal, though accuracy becomes demanding. A ballistic specialist writes, the .45 ACP at rifle distances produces wounds comparable to .30 caliber rifle fire at the same range. Subsonic velocity does not reduce stopping power. The technical review reveals something else. The Lisle is intentionally over-engineered. The suppressor is larger than needed. The barrel ports bleed more gas than strictly required. The action is heavier and sturdier than necessary. But this over-engineering creates a massive acoustic safety margin. Even in heat, humidity, or when parts wear down, the weapon remains whisper quiet. A British engineering officer summarizes the philosophy perfectly. We did not design it to be just quiet enough. We designed it to be absurdly quiet, so that even when everything goes wrong, it is still quieter than anything else. This redundancy becomes essential in the Pacific, a place where heat and humidity destroy machinery, where cleaning kits are luxuries, and where one loud shot means mission failure and certain death. The American conclusion is unmistakable. Request maximum available quantity for Pacific theater operations. The Lisle is going to war in the jungle, and Japanese sentries are about to learn why darkness is no longer safe. September 1943. The technical analysis is finished. Now the weapon must face its real test. Northern France, coast near Dieppe. A 6-man British commando team lands on the beach roughly 2 hours before dawn. Their objective? A German coastal observation post overlooking Allied shipping lanes. Intelligence reports 4 sentries rotating patrol and 8 more soldiers sleeping in the bunker below. The mission is simple on paper: kill the sentries silently, plant explosives, and withdraw before dawn. A standard infiltration, except this time, the lead commando carries a Lisle Carbine. The team moves inland through tall grass, slow and deliberate. They reach the perimeter at 0320 hours. 2 sentries are visible. One stands by the entrance. The other patrols the western fence line. The commando with the Lisle positions himself 40 yards from the entrance guard. He waits until the patrolling sentry moves out of sight. Then he fires. The entrance sentry falls instantly. No gunshot, no flash. Only the clatter of his rifle hitting concrete. The only sound the enemy hears. The patrolling sentry turns toward the noise, calling his partner's name. He walks closer, confused. The commando cycles the bolt with a soft, controlled movement, aims, and fires again. The second sentry collapses 10 feet from his partner. Total time, 18 seconds. 2 dead. 0 sounds identified as gunfire. The team advances to the bunker entrance. They place charges on the communication equipment. 1 German soldier shifts in his bunk, but does not wake. The commandos withdraw to the beach. At 0445 hours, the charges detonate. By the time German reinforcements arrive, the outpost is rubble, and the commandos are already 2 miles offshore. The after-action report is concise. Sentry elimination achieved without alerting garrison. Lisle Carbine performed as specified. No mechanical failures. Recommend continued deployment. October 1943. A railway junction in Yugoslavia. A joint British partisan operation targets a German supply line. The junction is guarded by a 5-man detachment. 1 sentry on the platform, 4 inside the station. A British operative and 2 Yugoslav partisans approach at midnight. The platform guard stands beneath a lamp, smoking. The British operative fires from 30 yards. The sentry collapses. His cigarette drops to the platform, still glowing. The partisans plant explosives on the tracks. Inside the station, a German soldier walks to the window. He sees the burning cigarette, but no guard. He assumes the man stepped away briefly and returns to his card game. 20 minutes later, the rails erupt. 6 hours later, a supply train derails. November 1943, Norway. Commandos silently remove sentries at a hydroelectric plant. December 1943, Greece. SOE operatives kill German officers at a commandeered hotel without waking nearby units. January 1944, Italy. Allied scouts clear German observation posts with quiet precision. The pattern is identical across every operation. Silent kills. Successful missions. Enemy forces left with no explanation. A German intelligence report from France summarizes the growing panic. Sentries are being found dead at their posts with gunshot wounds, but no evidence of combat. Morale among perimeter guards is deteriorating. Men refuse isolated postings. The Lisle is not just eliminating sentries. It is eroding confidence, creating fear, breaking the illusion of safety. And that fear is about to cross the Atlantic, into the Pacific, where American Marines will turn the Lisle into a weapon of psychological warfare. January 1944. The British success stories reach Washington. American intelligence officers read the after-action reports. Silent sentry elimination, 0 garrison alerts, mission success rates approaching 90%. The Office of Strategic Services wants the weapon immediately, but it's the U.S. Marine Corps that sees the real potential. February 1944. Marine Raider Training Facility, Camp Pendleton, California. Major Evans Carlson briefs his officers on Pacific infiltration tactics. The problem is familiar. Japanese perimeter guards are disciplined, alert, and positioned to provide overlapping coverage. Kill 1 sentry and his partner hears the shot. Suppressed weapons help. But help isn't enough in the Pacific. One officer mentions the British reports about a carbine so quiet that sentries die without their partners noticing. Carlson requests a demonstration. March 1944. The OSS loans 2 Lisle carbines to Marine Raider Battalion for evaluation. The Marines test them in simulated jungle conditions, high humidity, dense vegetation, night operations with limited visibility. The results exceed expectations. In jungle terrain, sound behaves differently than in open ground. Vegetation absorbs and distorts acoustic signatures. The Lisle's already quiet report becomes nearly undetectable. One Marine sniper describes his first shot. "I fired at a target 50 feet away. My spotter, lying right next to me, asked when I was going to shoot. I'd already put 3 rounds downrange." The Marines conduct a tactical exercise. 4 sentries positioned around a mock Japanese bunker. Live role players, unaware of the test parameters. A Marine with a Lisle eliminates all 4 in under 2 minutes. None of the role players realize they've been killed until instructors inform them after the exercise. One role player's testimony is recorded. "I heard my partner fall, thought he tripped. Then I heard a strange click, like a branch snapping. I turned to look, and the instructors told me I was dead. I never heard gunfire, not once." April 1944. The Marine Corps submits a formal request to British Combined Operations. They want 30 Lisle carbines for immediate Pacific deployment. The British agree, with conditions. The weapons remain classified. Captured carbines must be destroyed, rather than allow Japanese technical analysis. Marine raiders assigned to Lisle must complete specialized training, and most importantly, the weapon's existence cannot be disclosed in official reports. It remains a specialized suppressed carbine in all documentation. The Marines accept all conditions. By May 1944, the first Lisle carbines arrive in the Pacific Theater, and Marine raiders begin planning operations that were previously considered impossible. Silent infiltration of Japanese-held islands, elimination of sentries guarding supply depots, night raids on coastal installations without alerting nearby garrisons. The Americans are about to take British engineering into the most brutal combat environment of the war, where silence isn't just tactical advantage, it's survival. May 1944. The Lisle carbines reach the Pacific, but it's not the island-hopping campaigns where they make their mark. It's the jungle roads of Burma, June 1944. 20 miles south of Myitkyina, a narrow dirt road winds through dense jungle. Japanese supply trucks use it nightly to avoid Allied air reconnaissance. American OSS operatives and British commandos establish observation posts along a 3-mile stretch. Their orders are specific: disrupt Japanese logistics without revealing Allied presence in the area. No ambushes, no roadblocks, no obvious attacks, just casualties. Unexplained, unsettling. The first truck passes at 2130 hours. 3 Japanese soldiers inside. No escort. An American operative fires from 60 yards. The driver slumps forward. The truck veers into a ditch. The other 2 soldiers jump out, rifles ready, scanning the darkness. They hear nothing. See nothing. One approaches the cab to check the driver. The second operative fires. The soldier drops. The third Japanese soldier fires blindly into the jungle. Muzzle flash lights up the road. A British commando eliminates him with a single shot. 3 men dead. 2 Lisle rounds. 1 conventional rifle shot, only after the enemy had already revealed his position. The team withdraws. The truck remains in the ditch until morning. This pattern repeats nightly for 3 weeks. Japanese supply convoys begin reporting mysterious attacks. Drivers dying at the wheel, guards collapsing without warning. No ambush, no firefight. Just sudden death from invisible shooters. Japanese intelligence struggles to understand what's happening. Initial reports suggest sniper activity, but snipers use high-powered rifles that produce distinctive cracks. These deaths are silent. Some Japanese officers theorize partisan attacks, but local Burmese resistance groups don't have access to suppressed weapons. Others suggest disease or poisoning, but the bullet wounds are obvious. One Japanese report describes the situation. Drivers refuse night convoy duty. Morale among transport units critically low. Casualties mounting, but enemy forces never located. July 1944. the psychological effect intensifies. Japanese soldiers begin calling the stretch of road Shino Michi, the road of death. Superstitions spread. Some soldiers believe the jungle itself is killing them. Others speak of yūrei, vengeful ghosts. Officers try to counter the fear with increased security. Convoys now travel in pairs. Guards ride on running boards, watching the jungle. It doesn't help. The OSS teams simply wait for better opportunities. A truck stops to repair a flat tire. The guards dismount. One walks 20 feet into the jungle to relieve himself. He doesn't return. His partner investigates, finds the body, turns back toward the road, and drops silently. August 1944. Japanese command reroutes supply. Convoys to longer, less efficient roads. The 3-mile stretch becomes a no-go zone after dark. Mission accomplished. No major ambush, no Allied casualties, no conventional combat engagement. Just a handful of operators with Lisle carbines, turning a critical supply route into a haunted road that Japanese forces refused to travel. One OSS officer summarizes the operation in his classified report. Psychological impact exceeded tactical results. Enemy forces abandoned superior route due to fear rather than actual threat level. Recommend expanded deployment of silent weapons for similar operations. The Lisle has become more than a tactical tool. It's a weapon that kills morale as effectively as it kills men. And the jungle darkness has become Allied territory. September 1944. The Lisle dominates nighttime operations. Then reality catches up. Malaya. Dense jungle, monsoon season. A joint British-American team prepares to eliminate sentries at a Japanese ammunition depot. 4 guards patrol the perimeter. The plan is simple. Kill them silently, plant charges, withdraw before dawn. The lead operative raises his Lisle, aims at the nearest sentry 40 yards distant. He pulls the trigger. Click, no bullet. The firing pin strikes an empty chamber. He works the bolt, tries again. Click. The cartridge fails to fire. He ejects it manually and chambers another round. This time, the weapon fires. But the suppressor emits a louder than normal hiss. The sentry drops. But his partner turns toward the sound, rifle raised. The mission collapses into a firefight. The team withdraws under fire. 0 casualties, but 0 objective achieved. Post-mission inspection reveals the problem: moisture. The jungle humidity has penetrated the magazine. Condensation has formed inside the suppressor baffles. 2 rounds are corroded. The suppressor's internal packing is waterlogged. One armorer summarizes the issue. The Lisle was designed for European operations. Britain is damp, but not tropical. The weapon cannot handle sustained exposure to 90% humidity and daily rainfall. Other limitations emerge under extended Pacific combat. Problem 1: heat. The integrated suppressor cannot be removed for cooling. After 15 rapid shots, the baffles begin to glow. One Marine reports his suppressor actually ignited the packing material after a sustained engagement. The weapon remained functional, but it produced visible smoke for the next 10 shots. Silent? Yes. Invisible? No longer. Problem 2: magazine capacity. 7 rounds. Single-stack magazine. Reloading requires precise manipulation of a small, finicky component. In darkness, under stress, Marines fumble magazine changes. One operator describes the experience. You can't reload by feel alone. You need to look at what you're doing. That means taking your eyes off the target area. In a firefight, 7 rounds isn't enough. Problem 3: follow-up shots. The bolt action requires manual cycling between shots. Smooth operation demands deliberate movement, but combat demands speed. Marines trained on semi-automatic M1 Garand struggle with the Lisle's slower manual action. One after-action report notes, operator eliminated first sentry successfully. Second sentry reacted faster than anticipated. Operator failed to cycle bolt quickly enough. Forced to transition to sidearm. October 1944. Pacific Theater Weapons Evaluation. U.S. Marine Corps conducts formal assessment of the Lisle after 6 months of combat deployment. The conclusions are mixed. Strengths: unmatched acoustic suppression, effective lethality, psychological impact on enemy forces. Weaknesses: limited magazine capacity, slow rate of fire, vulnerability to tropical conditions, maintenance intensive. Recommendation: continue deployment for specialized operations only, not suitable as primary weapon, requires experienced operators and careful mission selection. The Lisle remains in service, but the limitations are clear. This weapon works brilliantly in specific scenarios: silent sentry elimination, precision night raids, psychological operations, but it cannot sustain extended combat. It cannot handle abuse. It cannot function as a general issue weapon. The perfect tool for impossible missions has boundaries. And those boundaries are about to define how the weapon is used for the rest of the war. The limitations didn't end the Lisle's effectiveness. They refined it. November 1944. New operational doctrine. U.S. and British Special Operations units established strict protocols for Lisle deployment. The weapon is no longer issued broadly. It goes only to hand-picked specialists, men who understand its strengths, men who respect its weaknesses. Marine Raider Captain James Cushman summarizes the new approach. The Lisle isn't for every mission. It's for the first shot, the shot that determines whether the mission succeeds or fails. After that, you fight with conventional weapons. The doctrine becomes standard. Lisle for infiltration. M1 carbine, or Thompson for combat. December 1944. Philippines. A 6-man Marine team infiltrates a Japanese-held village. Intelligence reports 15 enemy soldiers occupying a schoolhouse, 2 sentries outside. The team needs to reach the building without alerting the garrison. The lead Marine carries a Lisle. His partner carries a Thompson submachine gun. They approach at 0200 hours. First sentry. Eliminated at 30 yards. Silent. Second sentry. Eliminated at 25 yards. Silent. The team reaches the schoolhouse, plants satchel charges on the foundation. When the charges detonate, the Thompson becomes the primary weapon. The mission succeeds because the infiltration succeeded, and the infiltration succeeded because 2 sentries died without their garrison knowing. January 1945. Burma. OSS. Captain Mitchell Wirbel conducts night reconnaissance deep in Japanese territory. His team, 2 Americans, 3 local Kachin, guerrillas, observes a supply depot. 8 Japanese soldiers, 4 on guard, 4 sleeping. Wirbel needs intelligence on supply movements. He cannot risk a firefight that alerts nearby units. He uses the Lisle to eliminate 1 sentry positioned away from the others. The body won't be discovered until morning shift change. That gives his team 6 hours to observe, document, and withdraw. 0 contact. Complete intelligence collection. Wirbel's after-action report emphasizes the weapon's intelligence value. The Lisle allows reconnaissance operations previously considered impossible. Enemy forces never know we were there. February 1945. Mindanao. Filipino guerrillas receive 3 Lisle carbines from American advisors. They use them to eliminate Japanese sentries guarding bridges and supply routes. One guerrilla commander describes the psychological impact. The Japanese become afraid at night. They bunch together. They refuse isolated posts. This makes them easier to void, or easier to attack in force. The Lisle doesn't just kill sentries, it reshapes enemy behavior. By early 1945, the weapon's reputation has solidified. Japanese intelligence documents reference silent Allied weapons in multiple theater reports, but they never obtain a specimen for analysis. Captured Lisles are destroyed per standing orders. Operators carry demolition charges specifically for the weapon. One Marine's diary entry, March 1945. Orders are clear. If capture is imminent, destroy the carbine first. Even before destroying radio equipment, command considers the weapon more valuable than communication gear. The Lisle has become Allied psychological warfare's most carefully guarded secret, silent, lethal, unknown to the enemy, a ghost weapon used by ghost shooters. And the Japanese never figure out what's killing their men in the darkness.